question. What superheroes generally come to mind whenever you think of the golden age of comic books? Your mind probably jumps to people like Superman, Batman, the Justice Society, Captain America, the Submariner, and while a lot of these heroes continue to battle the forces of evil to this day, Dark Horse is picking up some of the slack for a handful of heroes who weren't so lucky. One of these heroes is Captain Mid-nite, who was active from 1938 to 1948 in comics, radio, even TV and movie serials. And if your twisted little brain is anything like my own, you're probably thinking, wow, they just ripped off Dr. Mid-nite completely. Actually, Captain Mid-nite came first, although since Dr. Mid-nite was the first to appear in a visual medium, while the Captain was only on the radio at the time, it's kinda hard to determine who's ripping off who here. I suppose the name can be forgiven, since it's all too likely that someone could come up with the same name for a hero completely by accident, but in this comic, they changed the original costume from a red and blue flight suit to something that almost looks like they're intentionally trying to rip off Dr. Mid-nite. And also, like Dr. Mid-nite, we'll see that the Captain here is nothing but an ordinary man with absolutely no superpowers to speak of. Since we see him flying on the back of a fighter jet in mid-flight, how is he still alive without any kind of oxygen supply? They stole his future. He's here to take it back. They, meaning Nesquik. Turns out that Ovaltine was not exactly the best sponsor that Captain Mid-nite could have had for his radio show.
Son of a bitch.
This introductory text tells us that Jim Albright is a genius inventor. Not that we ever see him inventing anything. And he was rejected from enlisting to fight in World War II because his intellect was too valuable an asset to lose if he was killed in battle. So instead of, staying at home and aiding the Allied forces by creating better weapons and war machines, he becomes Captain Mid-nite to fight the Nazis on his own. And as an inventor, naturally, he would go to fight the Nazis without any kind of visible weapons or tools on his person. Pfft, great. We're not even on the first page here, and this guy's already making the pouch-laden characters of Rob Liefeld look more believable. The text goes on to say that after disappearing in 1944, Captain Mid-nite was seen flying outside of the Bermuda Triangle, and he was subsequently detained by a U.S. aircraft carrier, only to steal a fighter jet and escape. Wow, doesn't that sound exciting? Man, am I glad that we didn't get to see any of that. Our comic opens on the North Pole in July of 1942, where we see Allied troops converging on a Nazi castle. Gotta give Hitler some credit here, though. Taking over the magical industrial complex of Santa Claus, it's not gonna be long before Hitler learns how to conquer the world in only one night. We then meet Ivan Shark, a high-ranking Nazi officer who gives his daughter to a guy who looks like Hitler, but they never call him Hitler, and his mustache seems a little too wide, so who can tell? And he tells him to get her to safety. He then tells his daughter not to worry about him. They won't kill me, I know too much! We then see Captain Mid-nite and his company crash the party. And since he's only slightly farther ahead than the rest of his squadron, I can only wonder what the benefits of that little flying squirrel cape of his actually are compared to the standard parachutes that everyone else seems to have. They fight off the Nazi troops, and Ivan here simply can't land a shot on the Captain. I remind you, this is just a normal guy without any super speed or any particularly sharp reflexes that we're aware of. How is this Nazi missing him even as he gets closer and closer to him? Your people seem to enjoy the violence, Captain. Maybe we are not all that different, yes? My friends are nothing like you, Ivan, and they never will be. Just ask any of my fellow Americans who hail from Japan. They all... Ooh. So the Captain pushes Ivan off the wall, and he then gets eaten by a polar bear. I guess polar bears are actually attracted to fire and loud noises. Maybe that's why they're endangered. Hey, Cap? Our orders were to bring old Ivan in alive. This isn't what I wanted, damn it! So then why did you push him off the wall? And if you're as fast as you apparently are, couldn't you just jump out there and save him from the polar bear? It wasn't only about justice. Ivan knew some of Hitler's key plans, but I wasn't going to risk my life for a criminal like him. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen, defying orders to get revenge on someone who is meant to be taken in for the sake of providing tactical intelligence. Wait a minute, whose orders are you even defying here? I thought that you were a rogue agent because you couldn't enlist. Still, one less Nazi is hardly a bad thing. You ever think you might be wrong, Captain? It doesn't matter what I think, Joyce. I'm only the Captain. What I think doesn't matter at all. We're doing what's right for the world. Funny. I would have thought that the best thing for the world would be to end the war as quickly as possible. With that in mind, it might do you some good to not let your would-be informants get eaten by polar bears. We then cut to present-day Nevada, where a woman named Charlotte is climbing up a cliff without any climbing gear. And if you think that's stupid, get a load of this. She's climbing this cliff so she can find Secret Squadron HQ, Captain Mid-nite's base of operations, and there's apparently a road that she could have taken to get there. Oops. And taking a cue from DC Comics, we then unnecessarily cut back to 24 hours ago when we could have simply had this scene come before her rock climbing in Nevada. She's talking with her grandmother, who is this gal from Captain Mid-nite's Secret Squadron. Captain Mid-nite traveled through time and has arrived in the present day. How do you know that? Wouldn't the information of a time-traveling World War II fighter pilot being held by the US military be highly classified? We get some exposition of how Charlotte's ex and her grandmother still talk to each other, and how he and some federal agents were here the other day looking for the captain. She asks why she should be the one to find Captain Mid-nite instead of just letting the feds handle it, and her grandmother explains that he'll need help in this modern world. Fair enough, Grandma, but that doesn't exactly answer her question. Why make her a part of this instead of letting some other official be his liaison to the 21st century? Charlotte never liked listening to your tales from the glory days, so it makes you think that she would be the best candidate for this. We jump back to Secret Squadron HQ, where the feds finally make the scene. Charlotte is surprised to find her ex-husband Rick among them. Officer Marshall here is our Captain Mid-nite expert. Wikipedia and my grandma's tall tales are only going to get you so far, Agent Jones. And actually, that is pretty true. An old woman's tall tales and any information that's readily available to any Wikipedia editor might not be the best info to go off of when you're looking for Captain Mid-nite. So tell us, Charlotte, what do you know about the situation? Surely you must know something more than the Captain Mid-nite expert if you're going to come out here, so what do you know? Nothing? Nothing at all? He did help us find the blueprints of this place. Trust me when I say there are a lot of things Rick can't find. Now I see why the marriage failed. I'm standing right here. Hey, don't be so quick to get offended by that, Rick. You didn't let him finish. He was going to say, now I can see why the marriage failed. She's a bitch who will make jokes about her husband's performance at times when it's completely uncalled for. That blueprint was a diversion, Agent Jones. My grandmother sent you on a wild goose chase to give me a head start. And with that head start, you've accomplished absolutely nothing. This isn't exactly something to brag about. Charlotte asks why they're making such a big deal out of this. Maybe Joyce was right. You guys are going about this completely the wrong way. This is overkill. Agent Jones, have you tried the peaceful approach? The details of how Captain Mid-nite was originally detained are never explained to us, but this guy was able to escape from an aircraft carrier, and with a fighter jet that he should have no idea how to pilot. I think they're allowed to be a little concerned about this guy. We have to make sure that we find him before something happens with Fury Shark. Oh, you don't believe all that Fury Shark was a Nazi mumbo-jumbo, do you? She might be a ruthless businesswoman, but she's no killer. Yeah, remember Ivan Shark's daughter that maybe Hitler got to safety? It seems her name is Fury Shark, points for subtlety, and she's allegedly a Nazi and immortal. Oh boy, where to start with this woman? They take her into hiding because she's the future, according to the other Nazis, and not only does she not take any precautions to keep her existence a secret, precautions which even less influential Nazis would take after the war was over, but she builds herself up as a titan of industry, in London no less, where I'm sure they'd be a little wary about her German accent, and lives a lifestyle so ostentatious that she even includes shark tanks in her office, and even designed her office building to look like a giant shark fin. Everything about this woman screams, look at me, and no one's gonna question why this woman hasn't aged a day in 70 years? Anyway, Fury Shark is trying to strike a deal with the US government so that her company will lead the armed forces' technical development. Why should we go with you when we already have a honey-sweet deal with Albright Industries? Probably because it got shut down when Captain Mid-nite, its founder and lead scientist, went missing in 1944? To answer his question, Fury takes the General to see this machine that the comic doesn't bother to point out what it is or what it does. You're certainly a tenacious one. I just see blood in the water, General. Anyone else surprised they didn't draw her with a top hat and twirly mustache? Suddenly, Dr. James Lipton appears to tell Fury of some new development coming up, and she leaves the General to deal with it. What a Schwanzlutscher. Well, gotta give this comic points for trying to be educational. Do you want to know what Schwanzlutscher means? Go to babelfish.com and find out. Make sure the General signs the papers and then sabotage his return flight, will you? I'll use the usual people. So hang on. We have a woman who has the exact same name and appearance of a prominent Nazi. 70 years later, she's still perfectly young, and she runs a multi-billion-dollar corporation where she develops weapons technology. And she's apparently so into the practice of sabotaging the return flights of the people that she does business with that she has usual people to do it. Does this woman have to have a swastika tattooed onto her face before someone thinks that maybe she might be a bad guy? Anyway, James Lipton here tells her how Captain Mid-Nite's hideout has been found. What should our next move be? As with all smart men, the trick is in presenting them with a challenge, a problem they can't help but solve. What did you have in mind for this problem? Why, the world, of course.
Of course.
Don't worry, I already have my men on it. Back at the captain's hideout, the feds still can't find him anywhere. Charlotte asks if the idea is to protect him from Fury Shark, and... Wait, why would she think that they need to protect him from Fury Shark if she's convinced that she isn't the Nazi that everyone else thinks she is? Agent Jones explains that they're trying to keep the captain from going after Fury and creating an international incident. Then why not question her? See if she knows anything. Fury's one of the wealthiest people on the planet. She could shoot the White House dog on the front lawn and it wouldn't even be on Twitter. What does this woman have to do to be recognized as a villain? Start a second Holocaust? And I don't know what world you live in, Agent Jones, but being wealthy doesn't mean that you can't ask someone some questions, especially when all you're trying to do is protect that person from getting attacked by a potential maniac. And no, I don't care how many get-out-of-jail cards you get for being rich. Someone would tweet about the president's dog getting shot. Rick finds the jet that the captain escaped in, and he deduces that the captain's been improving upon it. How does an inventor from the 1940s improve a jet from 2013? And how would Rick be able to tell that the jet's been improved upon? And there's no dust on the tools, so... he's still here. Or he just ran out the back door and he's running as fast as he can. Upon hearing that the captain's still here, a handful of soldiers open fire on the rest of them. Captain Mid-Nite is hiding, men! Fan out! But be kind! Orders are to bring the old hero in alive. Have you lost your mind, Sergeant? Those were good men! No. That is not how you react to someone shooting your men, and then they show that they have no flesh on their faces. The appropriate response is... The sergeant goes off to kill them since they think that they don't need their help with finding Captain Mid-Nite anymore, when a trap door clicks open and... Captain Mid-Nite pops out of it, and doing this somehow made the sergeant change positions from walking away from the trapdoor to walking towards it. I guess Captain Mid-Nite invented the portal gun during the 24 hours that he's been in our time. How dare you wear our flag, you traitors! Your wearing the flag is so offensive that I'm going to smile as I beat you up! He quickly kills all of the Green Skulls. Now that the enemy has been rooted out, what are my orders, Mr. Jones? And the comic ends with Agent Jones saying the one word that wraps up this entire comic in a nutshell. Huh? Very aptly said, Agent Jones, because this comic is just stupid. We have to be told that Captain Mid-Nite is a genius since he can't be bothered to actually do anything that's ingenious. The comic can't decide if he's a patriot who will follow orders or if he's just a nutjob who likes killing people. Everyone else is a damn moron because they can't see how transparently evil the villain is. And the villain herself is a collection of cliches that somehow became sentient. In closing, if there's a hero out there who didn't survive the Golden Age, do that hero a favor and just let him rest in peace.
Walking the street.
So hang on. We have a woman who has the exact same name and appearance as what we call a blooper.